Flying high on a Hawaiian roller coaster ride. Lilo and Stitch, the live action movie. I mean, it's live action, there's CGI obviously, but even live action movies use CGI in these day and age. So if you saw my out of theater reaction, you know my general thoughts. Real quick, what do I think of the original Lilo and Stitch? I actually do remember watching it. Okay, I didn't watch it from beginning to end, but I'm okay about. Like when it was on, I'm like, oh, Lilo and Stitch, the series is on. Okay, it was charming. I like the new aliens every week, so that was fun. The original movie also, I do enjoy it quite a bit. It is one of those movies that grows on you more and more as you watch it. It's definitely one of those films you show your kids too, because it's very kid friendly. But it's also not shying away from some more, mature elements of the idea of sisters separation. The parents are gone. The idea of can they stay together. They don't shy away from that in that movie, and that the heart of that movie is Lilo, and I believe it's what Nani. That's her sister's name. I do forget the name of his sister. Hold on, Lilo and Stitch. I want to say it's Nani. I could be wrong about that, but I'll find out right now. Lilo and Stitch. Where are they? There we go. Yeah, it's Nani. I was right. It was Nani. So this new one comes out, and if you saw, like I said, if you saw my out of theater review, you know my general thoughts on it. It is good. This is one of the good live action Disney remakes. It isn't perfect though, and there are things I think that they changed that I wasn't a big fan of. But on the whole, I do think it's a damn good movie. Not damn good. I think it's a very good movie. This is going to do very well at the box office because I think it's only made on like $100 million. What do I got for the budget right now? Lilo and Stitch 2025. What's the budget on this thing? I haven't. I want to say it's like 100 and like just maybe like 100. Apparently it's really cheap by Disney standards. 100 million. Disney, take notes. This is how you fucking do it. But 100 million, and they're like primed for like maybe $150 million opening weekend. And they really didn't do too much with the market. I mean, they had decent marketing. I wouldn't say more than 100 million though. So if they do 300 million, they're solid. If they do past that, they're good. And this is going to be a big family draw film because not only do you have kids and kids who maybe have already grown up on Lilo and Stitch, you also got the people who grew up 20 years ago on Lilo and Stitch. God almighty, that's rough to say. The original Lilo and Stitch is 2020, 2004. It's over 20 years old. God, I actually remember when this film came out in theaters. I was in middle school. Like, dear God. But I mean, the story is still exactly what the original is. The base story is exactly the same, along with a lot of the scenes that come with that. Stitch is Experiment 626, and we open up immediately with that. We don't open up. We don't. I can't. It's been so long since I watched the original. I can't remember if we opened up with the aliens, but we opened up with them here. And right out the gate, I'll kind of go back and forth here a little bit. Like I also talk about the positives and the negatives in certain orders, but right out the gate, one of the not negatives, but less than impressive things are the visuals. Now, not in the sense of something like Stitch, who I think is very well animated. Like, he does look like Stitch. I do think there's a little uncanny valleyness with him a little bit. Like, something about him is a little off. And I was looking at it, and I actually think it's his eyes. Even though he does have these big-ass pupils, these giant eyes, I think that doesn't quite work in live action as well. But overall, you still get enough emotion out of them that it still works. So I think that might be the one thing that was a little off with Stitch. By the way, Stitch looks great. And the springboard off of that, the heart of this movie is the relationship between Lilo and Nani and Lilo and Stitch. Those are the big three. And on that front, this movie still delivers. It still delivers very, very well. They even add some things to Nani in this film. They add the fact she actually wanted to go study marine biology. But when their parents died, she had to stay. They bring up her surfing history. But they actually are able to use it like hint at things that come up later on. Lilo, this little girl, what's her name? Hold on. This little girl, Maya Qiloa. This girl is freaking adorable. Like, she is so adorable. And this is both, you could definitely tell this is Lilo, like a live action interpretation, but it isn't quite exactly one-to-one to the animated Lilo, and that's okay. Because she's still doing very Lilo things. She goes to visit the dogs in the shelter and brings them candy, like Lilo, but it makes them happy, but it gives them diarrhea. You could have easily said, but it makes them sick. Like, you don't give candy to dogs, Lilo. Giving Pudge the fish a sandwich, which, by the way, that was a fake-looking sandwich. That sandwich would not have stayed solidified. It would have not kept its form in the water like it did. Because I honestly thought Pudge the fish was like a freshwater fish, but no, Pudge the fish is a seawater fish. But there are things like that Leo does that the original I think does better. For example, when Lilo has her outburst in the hula class, it's an outburst. Like, she doesn't just attack the girl, like push the girl. She flat out goes, ah! Like, attacks her. And then it's like, I want a dance. I'm sorry, I want a dance. Like, she does that. Here, it really is, she just straight out shoves her. Like, spoiler, but it's a bit more of a toned down scene, which, to be fair, I guess I can kind of understand. But I'm like, they really, one of the things they don't do, I think, quite as well, they still do fine, but quite as well, is kind of lean into the neurodivergent side of Lilo, because Lilo has kind of always been a big representation in animated films for autistic characters. It's widely believed she's autistic. She's on the spectrum. Which, by the way, I know you weren't probably being a mean, right? I just want to point out, someone said, it's a spectrum. We're all on it. Like, yes, but you know exactly what I mean when I say that. There is the spectrum, which we all basically fall upon on some level, hence being a spectrum. But then there is the clear, more obvious side of the spectrum where we are dealing with levels of autism. Because, yes, hypothetically, someone who wouldn't really test for autism would be on the spectrum, but that's clearly not what we're talking about. So, not that it's a big issue, but just someone's like, it's a spectrum. Like, it's like, it felt like they were trying to be corrective, and I know you weren't, but I just wanted to let you know that I get what you meant, but that's clearly not what I meant. So I just wanted to put that out there. But yeah, no, she's clearly, she has oftentimes been associated with autistic individuals, and watching her, she clearly, I can't keep saying you clearly, because that's not fair, because as far as I know, I'm not on the autistic spectrum. So I don't really have a proper voice in that argument. But with that said, she definitely displays traits of like a neurodivergence. She's a lot more withdrawn. She has very big mood swings. One of the big things she does here is she screams just randomly for no reason. Like when she's it's like she just screams and just like scares her sister in her car when she realizes we're gonna name him Stitch. Like, that does sound like something someone on this. It just seems like a habit that person would have. And I know like habits and rituals are big for many people who have autism or who have some sort of OCD, or an OCD isn't necessarily autism, or it might fall somewhere on the spectrum. I don't know about OCD versus the spectrum, but maybe. I mean, I know a lot of autistic people maybe do have some level of OCD or just need order or something. So, but yeah, they do capture well. I think though that Lilo is a little bit more appropriately represented in the original. But that being said, she's also smarter than, like, say, her age would let you believe. Like, this Lilo in the series and in the movie, the original, is a lot more intelligent than her age would allow, than what you'd expect for her age. She has a level of maturity that comes with that, along with her immaturity. Here, you definitely see the immature side of it, but they don't lean into the mature side as much. And I think that's another problem I have with the film is that they cut scenes straight out of the original movie. Like, there's scenes that aren't there. For example, a scene I like is when Nani is about kind of trying to have a conversation with her about the fact they're probably going to be split up. And she like brings her pizza and she's like, pizza! And then she starts talking, and you could see Lilo look to the plate and knows her sister's not eating the pizza, so she's putting it together. But like, there are other scenes in the original that just aren't here. That scene where and this is minor spoilers, but it's nothing too drastic. That scene exactly when Stitch actually leaves, he takes the Ugly Duckling book along with him. And Lilo has that conversation. He's like, you can be a baby, or if you leave, that's okay too. I'll remember you. I remember everyone who leaves. That's not here. So I'm like, that's a really good scene. That's a powerful scene. The fact that it's not here does hurt. There's other scenes that aren't in the movie. The Elvis Stitch, that's not. I think I said it. I spoiled it in the original video, or last night's review. But it's like save for a mid-credit sequence. There and another thing is the climax is actually very different in this movie than in the original movie. It's actually quite a bit of a different. Like you still get that scene at the end where this is my family. I found it all by myself. It's little and broken, but still good. Yeah, still good. I can do a pretty good Stitch. I'm not saying replace me for Stitch or anything like that. But hey Hollywood, I'm here. But no, like that scene's still there. But it comes after like the climax of the film, which is again kind of very different actually. I won't give it too much away, but they just take a different tone with it. And I will say it is kind of telegraphed what's going to happen, but I'll admit I got a little emotionally choked up of some of the stuff going on there. They give Stitch, and they still give Stitch the same arc, but it kind of manifests in a different way that I did like. But again, for all the good that this film does do, like there's still plenty of fun. These two bonding over their love of just making trouble, and them bonding is adorable. Like I said, the sister relationship is really good. It's really solid. But then there's the other changes that were made. For example, Cobra Bubbles is not the child services individual here. Like he goes undercover, but he's not. They do Cobra Bubbles very different here. And look, I don't think Raines, was also doing Mission Impossible at the time, but they couldn't get Ving Rhames back? Come on. But regardless, that's a minor quibble. The big thing though is Pleakley and Jumba. So Pleakley is still played by Bill Magnuson, who I believe is the original voice actor. You can correct me on that. But man, the CG doesn't look great on either hit. See, it looks better on Jumba. I'll give it that, but it doesn't. Like, I'm fully aware it's an effect looking at it, and like the high councilwoman or whatever, who's like the head of the stuff. Like, I'm like, it's nice looking, but I'm very aware it is a CGI thing. Like, Stitch does feel like he's actually belongs in there. I did feel him integrated into the world properly. Jumba and Pleakley, not so much. And I said it at the very end of the review, but I can go a bit more into it here. Normally I don't care about casting when it comes to voices, as long as you get a voice that fits. And I'll say this, when they're doing the live action stuff, Zach Galifianakis is, because I actually had to be sure that was Zach Galifianakis for a second. I'm like, man, he looks different with that beard on, that type of beard. But his voice does not match that design. Like, I take Jumba's design out of the equation, which admittedly, yeah, his nose is a little, like, why couldn't you just give him the big nose? I don't know why. Why did you feel you had to change that aspect? It wouldn't have been that hard to put that nose on. But yeah, Zach Galifianakis' voice does not match with that design. Remember, Jumbo sounds like a kind of weird version of Russian, a little bit. He sounds like a big man, because he is a big man. Yeah, big hairy potato, as Lilo calls him at one point. But with that said, you can't really go and like Zach Galifianakis is not a thin guy, but he's not like a huge guy. You need someone who's got actually that deep voice to him, or it comes up a bit more like this, you know. Lilo, Stitch, 626. Like, I can't do that. I can't do a Jumbo voice, sadly. But yeah, it just didn't work. It was fine when Zach Galifianakis was in human form. But whenever he was actually Jumba, it did not match that design. Like, the energy was there. Don't get me wrong. The energy was there. But the voice was just the wrong voice. I'm not saying I could pick someone out of a hat who would be a better voice. But, like, if I were to think of anyone with a relatively deep voice that I can think of off the top of my head here that would work as Jumba, let me just think real quick, like, movies that have come out, like, recently, just this year, for context in my head here. I'm struggling with that too. Not just, no, I was about to say Jason Momoa, but his voice has a little too much edge to it. And you got to be someone who could, like, put on a voice. Look, I hate to say it, I really do, but Jack Black probably would have been a better choice. I wish I wasn't saying that, because don't get me wrong, I'm not on the hate Jack Black train like some people have come and like saying he's in too many things. But honestly, if you're talking about a big guy with a lot of energy in his voice, and you want to get that kind of crazy scientist aspect out there, Jack Black actually would have been a better choice for Jumba versus Zach Galifianakis, in my opinion. Now, maybe I'm wrong in that, and that's fine. Maybe it wouldn't have worked. I'm just saying, if you're giving me someone just off the top of my head, that kind of would have worked. And honestly, hearing Jack Black do a kind of a Russian accent would have been kind of fun. But, because that's kind of what Jumba has. But, is it a bad movie? No! I am pointing out all the things I do think didn't work in the movie. Like, they took scenes out, but they changed some scenes up I did like. Again, the finale is different, because in the original, it's just a big chase sequence. Like Gontu was after them, I think. But there's no Gontu in this movie. So you did have to do something different. And what they ultimately do, I actually really like, because, again, it's the family kind of coming together and helping each other, and Stitch really kind of learning the value of love, or the lesson of love. So I actually kind of like the overall finale a bit more in this one, weirdly enough. It probably would have also hit better in the original too, to some degree. But then they make changes that I didn't quite like. There were some casting choices I didn't quite like, and CGI is hit and miss. But as an experience, as a joyful experience, and there is a little, not a mid-credit scene because the movie keeps going on for a little bit longer, but there's kind of like a little epilogue moment, and it's a very sweet epilogue. It really is a sweet epilogue moment. I'm like, no. Oh, give them a big hug. Like, give them all just a big old hug. Like, yeah, I did dig it. I do enjoy this movie quite a bit. Is it better than the original? No, I do think because everyone's going to make that comparison, so let's just be honest. We might as well make it now and get it out of the way. Is it better than the original? No, I wouldn't think so, but it's a good reinterpretation of the film. There's enough changes to make it a little bit more, a little bit different from the original, and I think enough of those changes work. Stitch is still adorable. Lilo's still adorable. Nani and Lilo's relationship still works. The family dynamic is still there. Ohana is still there. So, and the music's still there, because, hey, hey, oh, my way, I gonna cast her. Like, yeah. So, yeah, I definitely still recommend the movie. Absolutely. We had Elio, the trailer for Elio. We had that. Smurfs. I had that attached to frickin' Mission Impossible, because it's Paramount. No, actually, isn't this new Smurfs Sony? Smurfs 2025. Isn't this new one Sony? Distributor, come on. No, it's Paramount. Okay, it is Paramount. So that makes sense. Unfortunately, it makes sense. Okay, we also had Fantastic Four. I believe we had Fantastic Four because this is a Disney picture. We had the Zootopia 2 teaser. Not much to go off of there. Okay, and then we had something that I literally had to just watch and go like this, like, what am I looking at? Something Dollhouse, something like that. And I'm like, I'm watching this, I go, Dora the Explorer 2 Butch for You Kids? Let's do this film instead. Holy crap. Look, I'm sure it has its audience. I don't know if I can. It's animated. I might have to be at that one because of the person who asked me to go see the animated stuff. And by the way, yes, I did see you mentioned that The Day the Earth Blew Up will be on HBO Max streaming soon. Anyway, though, yeah, look, I digress. Thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. I like the film. It's good film. I'll be back with a bunch of stuff because I got my review for Mission Impossible. Pre-recording my What If for tomorrow, the new My Hero What If, and then we're going back to the DBZ ones for those of you guys who were concerned. I got to do today's What If, and I got one more. It's a birthday What If for someone. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time. Later.